thank God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel, from the first day until now, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Well, I was born in 1976 in Pasadena, Texas, and my parents were Darlene and Damon Herbert, who's my dad. I had a pretty normal childhood growing up until about 9 or 10 years old. My parents got divorced, which was really hard on me and my sister at the time, and probably one of the most impactful times of my life. When that happened, I wanted to live with my dad, my father, but I couldn't because my mom wanted me to come live with her. When I was living with my mom, I wanted to get away. I wanted to move with my dad, and so I caused her lots of trouble. And so for the years I lived in Minnesota, I was getting into trouble, smoking, starting to do those kind of things. My real father had been petitioning the court so that I can choose on where I want to live. And finally I got to do that. So I ended up, when I was 14, to be able to move down with my father, who lived in Alabama at the time. But living with my father, I got to live with him for a couple years down there, from 14 to 16 years old. During that time, I started to drink, but not a lot, but at parties and things like that. And I just tried marijuana, and I also sold some drugs. Probably the second most impactful thing in my life, which I still deal with today. One day, my dad was going to go to that bar, and him and his best friend were going to go there that night. They met this girl, and they brought her with them, and all three of them were sitting at the bar that night, and someone walked up behind them and shot all three of them in the head. Right when the cops came to the door, I said, "What happened? What's wrong with my dad?" He was on a ventilating machine, and he had a hole through his head from where the bullet had went. And so they asked me, "What do you want to do?" And so he had always told me if he's ever in that situation that I'm supposed to, nobody would want to live like that. So that's what I did. But at that point, I lost all hope pretty much in everything. And for 8 years, until about 23, I was involved with gangs, selling drugs, lots of violent crimes. I was very violent and mean. And really, I'll be honest with you, from 16 to 23, I couldn't care less if I died. In 2004, we came to move from Minnesota to Texas in Amarillo. And then I bought my first house, which was on Line Avenue over in San Jacinto. David Davis and Debbie Davis and their family came over and brought us some Bibles and a cookie. I said, yeah, I wouldn't mind studying the Bible, of course. And we started this Bible study with David Davis every Friday night, which was a good thing because it kept us out of the bars on Friday night. We were willing, our hearts were open to change at that time. I remember that I felt like when I was baptized that I understood that my sins, everything I had ever done, every drug I'd ever sold, every life I'd ever hurt, every violence that I'd ever committed, everything that I'd ever done was wiped away. I felt like it was all gone and the burden was gone. When I did that, I was raised to walk in a new life in this world that I was living in. So when I look back at that, it is a change. God has used that to allow me to go visit people that a lot of people in the church won't visit. Because it's not me who changes their heart, it's God. I'm just the messenger. That's what it means to be in the blood of Christ, is to be changed from this to this. I thank my God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel, from the first day until now, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in me will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus.